afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on how to improve academic writing using Nestor's topic to sentence outline for his assignment. Today, we have a dynamic team of 4 panelists, and we'll be exploring the various aspects of his outline and how it can be revised for greater clarity and effectiveness. Before we begin, let me introduce our panelists. We have with us today Ms. Braithwaite, Ms. Bissoon, Ms. Brown, and Ms. Thomas, who all specialize in academic writing. Our discussion will focus on evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of Nestor's outline, offering recommendations for revision, and explaining how the TEAS framework can be applied. We'll also dive into why a specific expository method would work best for Nestor's essay. Without further ado, let's begin.
Thanks for having me. Let's jump right into the strengths of Nestor's topic to sentence outline. First, it's clear that he has grasped the 3 dimensions of burnout: inefficacy, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism. His topic sentences clearly state the points he wishes to cover, and he has managed to organize his thoughts into a logical sequence. This is definitely a good starting point, showing his understanding of the general structure of an expository essay.
I agree, but there are several weaknesses that stand out. For one, the thesis statement is quite vague. This essay constitutes a discussion of the dimensions of burnout. This doesn't tell us what specific angle or insight Nestor wants to offer. It's not enough to merely list the topics. A strong thesis should also indicate the relationships between the points or what's at stake in discussing them. His topic sentences are also somewhat basic. For instance, emotional exhaustion is a constituent of burnout. It doesn't really explain how or why it is important.
Great points. Now let's move on to discuss how Nestor can revise this outline to align better with the expository writing method. Ms. Bissoon, could you lead us into that?
Sure. To make Nestor's outline more effective, the first step is to revise the thesis statement. Instead of simply stating that he will discuss the dimensions of burnout, Nestor should aim for something more analytical. For example, he could write, "This essay explores how inefficiency, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism interact to compound the effects of burnout in high-stress environments." This gives the reader a clear sense of the argument and what will be explored.
I completely agree. Moreover, Nestor's topic sentences need to offer transitions and relationships between the points. For instance, instead of just saying inefficacy means someone is experiencing burnout, he could rephrase it to show causality. Like, when individuals feel inefficacy, they lose belief in their abilities, which accelerates the onset of burnout. The topic sentences should provide more depth, connecting burnout's dimensions logically rather than just listing them.
Exactly. Adding transitions between his ideas will make the essay flow better. We can also recommend that Nestor add some background in his topic sentences, explaining not just that these things are aspects of burnout, but also hinting at their broader implications for both individuals and organizations.
Those are solid suggestions. When we return after a short break, we will discuss applying the TEAS to Nestor's body paragraph. Now, let's talk about how Nestor can flesh out his paragraphs using the TEAS method. Miss Thomas, would you explain that for us?
But of course, T's stand for topic sentence, explanation, example, elaboration, and summary. Now let's apply this to Nestor's second topic sentence on emotional exhaustion. Here's how it could work. For topic sentence, emotional exhaustion is one of the most visible symptoms of burnout, often manifesting as a state of physical and emotional depletion. E for explanation. Emotional exhaustion occurs when individuals are constantly exposed to stress without adequate rest, leaving them feeling detached from their work and unable to contribute effectively. For example, a nurse working long shifts during a pandemic may experience emotional exhaustion, which can lead to burnout and even affect patient care. Elaboration. This depletion doesn't affect the performance. It can also result in personal consequences like insomnia and anxiety, further exacerbating burnout. Emotional exhaustion is therefore a critical component of the burnout cycle. Summary. Thus, addressing emotional exhaustion is crucial in preventing the other dimensions of burnout from worsening. This approach fleshes out his ideas and offers the depth needed for academic writing.
That's an excellent breakdown. Now that we have seen how teas can help, let's move into why we've chosen a specific expository method for Nestor's essay. Miss Braithwaite, can you explain your choice?
Definitely. Nessa's topic requires an analysis by division approach, which is a method where a larger concept, in this case burnout, is broken down into its components. This is exactly what Nessa needs to do with inefficiency, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism. By dividing the burnout into these three dimensions, he can analyze each one separately and in detail. This method fits well with his assignment because it requires him to explore each element's role within the broader concept of burnout.
Exactly. Classification wouldn't work as well here because Nesta isn't comparing burnout types or putting burnout into a category. He's trying to analyze how its elements function together, so analysis by division is ideal.
Fantastic insight. As promised, we are going to dive right into the introduction of Nestor's essay. Miss Brown, perhaps you may have some suggestions?
Yes. For the introduction, Nestor should begin by establishing the significance of burnout as a pressing issue, particularly in modern work environments. He could mention how burnout rates have skyrocketed in the recent years and how it negatively affects productivity, mental health, and overall quality of life. Then he can briefly introduce the three dimensions: inefficacy, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism as key aspects of burnout that his essay will explore. A good thesis might be: this essay examines how inefficacy, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism interact to create a debilitating cycle of burnout, particularly in high pressure workplaces.
Exactly. By starting with the context of the problem, Nestor grabs the reader's attention and sets up a clear framework for the rest of the essay.
Excellent advice. Now, on to the conclusion. Miss Bissoon, could you give us your thoughts on that?
Certainly. For the conclusion, Nestor should summarize the three dimensions of burnout and restate how they collectively contribute to the overall phenomenon. He should also suggest solutions or steps that could be taken to mitigate burnout, such as work-life balance, mental health support, or organizational changes. This will tie the essay back to real-world implications. He could end with something such as, in conclusion, understanding the dimensions of burnout is essential for preventing it. By addressing inefficiency, emotional exhaustion, and cynicism early on, we can reduce burnout's damaging effects on both individuals and organizations.
Perfect. This gives Nestor's essay a clear and actionable conclusion. Well, that wraps up our panel discussion today. We've covered a lot of ground, from analyzing strengths and weaknesses in Nestor's outline to providing concrete recommendations for improvement. Thank you to all our panelists for their insight, and we hope these tips will help Nestor and others succeed in their academic writing.